know if it's obvious, but I found my favorite lens hidden in storage. What do you think? Let me know. Today I thought I'd tell you about why and how I became a writer. We talk a lot about my passion for storytelling here, but I don't think I've ever told you how my passion for words came to be. I'm really excited to share my writing journey with you, and especially to tell you why I chose to become a young adult author in particular. I've always been a reader. My mother used to be a teacher long before I was born, so early education was really important to her. She made me these personalized picture books where I was the star. She read to me all the time. She made sure our home was stocked with lots and lots of books. I actually read the first Harry Potter in kindergarten. There's a really sweet story about that. I was introduced to Harry Potter through a book-themed ornament a kind old man gave me at the swap market to cheer me up because I was crying over a doll we couldn't afford. He told us all about Harry Potter and got me super excited over this tiny little Christmas ornament, so my mom bought me the first book and the rest is history. Now the thing is, if you're a poor bookworm, you read some pretty crazy things. Save for Harry Potter, most of my books were yard sale finds or hand-me-downs. I read a lot of books that were probably inappropriate for my age level, including a lot of true crime. I'm mentioning that now because it will become relevant later. I also read lots of children's classics like Judy Blume, Nancy Drew, The Boxcar Kids, Goosebumps, Sweet Valley High, The Babysitter's Club. Oh my gosh, I love The Babysitter's Club. I've always loved kids, and I used to be a nanny for twins and a daycare worker in charge of 20 babies at once, so you can definitely say my early reading habits influenced those decisions. Anyway, most of my books are older, and I was really rough with them. My copy of Matilda fell apart because I read it too much. The same thing happened with 2 hardback copies of The Prisoner of Azkaban. But I still didn't get the inkling that I might want to become an author someday. Looking back on my childhood, I should have realized it way sooner. I routinely played a game called Cops and Serial Killers with my brothers, where I buried my Bratz dolls in the backyard and investigated their murders with my detective brothers. This game consisted of tearful interviews with my other dolls and lots of dramatic twists and turns and crazy reveals because I had to mask the fact that I was both the lead investigator and the murderer. Pretty much all my childhood stories involve long and complicated backstories for my stuffed animals and dolls. And I even wrote these down for my brothers to refer to so they wouldn't get lost in the big picture. But I still didn't think, I like telling stories. Maybe I should do something about that. In fact, it wasn't until middle school that I started writing for the joy of creative writing instead of as a supplement to something else. I got my start writing fan fiction for a series called The Click by Lacey Harrison. There was a direct-to-TV movie being made of it, and they had a forum, and I posted my writing there all the time. I've mentioned before that I broke my leg pretty badly in middle school and I couldn't be as active outdoors as I used to be. I gained a lot of confidence through sharing my writing with this community and the feedback I received. I was already sort of primed to take on writing as an obsession when I discovered Twilight. Now, in case you don't know, for all the hate that Twilight received, it was pretty revolutionary at its time, if not for the content, for what it did to the young adult genre. Harry Potter played a very big part in legitimizing writing for young adults as something that could be taken seriously and enjoyed by adults as well as children and teens. But it was Twilight that really brought the young adult market to what it is today. Twilight was a global obsession, at one time consisting of 15% of all book sales in a year-long period. Publishers really wanted to invest in what made Twilight popular, and the growth from that and from investing in similar books to books from that group that did well was what really brought young adult into its current sustainable market. The years before Twilight and young adult, the early 2000s, were a really rough time. I mentioned before that I spent my childhood reading a lot of children's classics. For a long time, that's all that young adult was: moral stories or cheap mass paperbacks. Writing for teens was not considered serious, literary, or even profitable. Twilight was a leading factor in what helped push young adult to what it is today. Young adult used to just be one shelf in the bookstore. That's all. And now it's an entire aisle. There are so many options now. Epic Read's YouTube channel made a very cool video on the history of young adult that explains all this a lot more clearly. I'll link to it in the description if you'd like to learn more. Anyway, so discovering Twilight, especially at the prime age it was targeting, was sort of revolutionary. I wrote a lot more fan fiction, but I also started nurturing my own stories and wondering how I could publish my ideas. I owe a great debt to Alexandra Bracken. She's a very well-known author now, but I won a contest for a copy of her first ever novel. And in addition to the book, which is wonderful by the way, it also included a $50 gift card to a bookstore of my choice. $50 in book money was like winning the lottery. It was really the first time I could invest in new books for myself. Alex also had a pretty detailed blog at the start of her career where she talked about her journey in publishing and her experience as either an editorial or marketing assistant, I can't remember which, at a big New York publishing house. Her blog taught me a lot about writing, the traditional publishing experience, and the industry, and by the time I was 16, I basically decided that there was no other path for me. I have a very clear memory of reading Lauren Oliver's Delirium, and I remember throughout the entire experience thinking, this is what I want to do. This is how I want people to feel when they read my work. I want to be on the other side of the page. I'd already been researching the industry, but this was the first time I read a book and felt as connected to the process of writing as I was to the story that I was reading. I remember being so impressed by the little pieces of world building that would preface each chapter and wanting desperately to learn how to use the same skill myself. I really wanted to make someone feel as inspired and as impressed as I felt in that moment. It really marked a turning point for me as a reader. From then on, I started examining what made a book work as I read. I prioritized a practical career because it's irresponsible not to, but even if I could only write in the bathroom or during lunch breaks, my goal was and always will be to be a published author someday, specifically a young adult author. I never considered a different subset of the writing industry. While I'd like to try my hand at screenwriting and other mediums, my heart has always been in young adult. Young adult fiction gave me strength and confidence as friendships fell apart, as my heart was broken by people I cared about and by the harsh realities of life and dreams I was forced to set aside. Young adult fiction helped shape me to the woman I am today. I'm always going to want to speak to the girl that I was, to tell the stories that I needed to hear when I was that age. The story of how I became a writer is really a story wrapped up in what inspired me and what gave me hope. Reading and writing has always been there for me, even when nothing or no one else could be. I'm so grateful for what that has done for me, and I would be beyond honored if my words could do that for someone else. So that's the story of how I became a writer. What inspired you to start writing? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe. I'm here every week with new videos about books and writing and things that inspire me. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you really soon. Bye.